Val Gadsden. What's a possibility that going forward with this construction would put some of our local construction people into jobs as well? I mean, is that a potential?
I can maybe address some of that. If the project's financed with rural development, it would have to be competitively bid, but certainly your local contractors could bid on the project. Typically we go with the low bidder or best value, so it would really depend upon how the bids came in, but certainly your local contractors would be encouraged to bid.
Could you break down the bonding and the grant again? Because how much is the grant?
Okay. It's not been approved yet, so I do want to preface that.
Yeah.
My recommendation would be, through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act and the special initiative by the Secretary of Agriculture, I am going to recommend a grant of $250,000. That's the maximum grant. Actually, that's the largest grant that I'll have in my portfolio. That opportunity, and I'm not trying to sway anyone, but I just want to be upfront about that. The funds to the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act terminate in September, so we won't have access to those funds after September of this year. And then we would go back to the standard, probably $50,000 maximum. The rest would be in the form of a loan at 4%, 4.25%, whatever the interest rate is when the loan's approved. I don't know if that addressed your question, but.
So the total bonding.
Well, if the application amount is correct, I got this from the USDA application, the total project was a $2.696 million. The $500,000 of cash identified as a capital outlay fund. The previous D grant, which I guess you used for site acquisition, plus an additional $250, if awarded, would be a $1.638 million loan.
Okay, so it's a $2.6 million project, but the loan is actually
1.6.
Thank you.
And then, of course, payments would either have to be covered with tax levies, or if you've had a successful fundraising campaign, those revenues could be used to offset payments too.
Mr. Mayor, if I may just add, in the course of planning, and we've worked as diligently as we can to drive the price down, reconfiguring, doing everything we can to make it a workable spot. We believe, at least I believe, maybe Val would have a different viewpoint, that we still have room to negotiate and maneuver here. What we did was we took the plan as we had it on the day that we last talked, and we submitted it to USDA and made it whatever that number was, because we didn't want to be low and then have to come in higher. So we feel we're at the highest number, and personally I feel there's a number below that we'll get to. So when we talk about what the amount is of the loan, that's the amount, the discussion that I see you having, or we having, with the people that go out and say, we believe in this library and we want to raise the money. And then the question to them is, and what did you say you were going to raise again? Because that drives the project. I don't think, as Mike was noting, there is nothing in the plan that says we're going to have an ongoing maintenance of paying for a loan. Now, we may find a way to do that in the short term, but in the long term, I think our interest here is to get Consul to be able to access as many dollars as folks like Jennifer are able to bring to us through another venue, and then take that, pay it off, and pay it off with the money that's raised, either locally or through other grants. And that's what we're trying to get to. To get that answer, we had to have this hearing tonight. And as you'll see when you conclude the hearing, the next item of business is to simply move ahead, and it gives you authorization, but it doesn't obligate you to do anything. And I certainly wouldn't suggest we want to obligate anything in terms of actually selling the bonds until we've had all those discussions. So there's a lot of bringing back to the forefront the group that was trying to raise the money, getting that committee activated again, and finding out what they're willing to commit to, because this is not all public money going to go into this library. it's gotta rest on, and it's always been understood to be, it will rest on, what does the community really want?
Where do we stand with fundraising, and how does this, the deadline that she just gave us in August, I believe, how would that, pardon me? September, how does that affect
I
our
think
fundraising proposals?
Dan, do we have Dan address that, or?
No, it's not Dan's responsibility per se, I mean, he works closely with it. The fundraising group we've spent a lot, a fair amount of money finding out whether it's possible, or we wouldn't be sitting here tonight. They have been active in the community, they've done their initial survey of the community, and then we asked them to stop, because at that point, we needed to find out if we could get some other sources to complete the deal, if you will. If we went to them and said, you need to go out and raise 2.2 million, they'd look at you and say, it can't be done. But there is a number that they can say will be done. And I think it's getting close enough to the point now with the grant, if Jennifer's right and she recommends it and gets approved, I think we're getting close to that number. And that's what you need to see. And that's what you need to challenge the people that raise the money to go out and raise that money. And they have to come in and convince you they can do it, and here's the way they're gonna do it, and here's the time schedule they're gonna do it on. And if they do that, as I think they're going to be able to pick up and continue forward again, they've done enough work. What would you say we've got into this? 9 months of meeting and talking to people and working on the plan. So it's not like we're starting from scratch here. What we're at is, we're at a vital point of being able to identify some very critical money that will sell this project and put it over the top.
That money being
The grant money.
the grant money.
As the administrator, I could not come to you and say, you're gonna pay for the rest of this and put it on the backs of the taxpayers. It's not gonna happen. We can't afford to put it into the plan unless we do away with other vital things which we've already started on, such as a wastewater treatment plant. And those things are too critical to the survival of the community. Not that the library isn't, but if you had to pick and choose, you're not going to have your waste unable to be taken care of.
So really what it comes down to, in a way, if we are to accept your parameters, is what number is out there that has been raised, that has been committed from the general public. I mean, everybody here is overwhelmingly in support of the library, but
Yeah. No,
there's a difference between support and here's my checkbook support.
Yeah. And they have not done any, here, sign on a dotted line. They've done interviews. I think they interviewed roughly 50 to 60 people in the community that, they've identified these are potential people that could help support the library in a comfortable way. And certainly it's built along one of those triangle things, and there's somebody at the top, and then it spreads out, and the rest of us are at the bottom. And that's the way it works, and it always has, in any fundraising thing. So our challenge to them is to go back now and pull that information out, and in the interim, get the approval of the grant so that we know we have that. And then once you know what that number is, you go to them and you say, here's the number, can you raise it? And if they come back and they're, let's say, $50,000 short, then it's up, do we have another source? Did we find another 50 from another grant source? Or are you willing to commit $50,000 of taxpayer money over the next 40 years to pay for that? Well, probably 50 could be doable. It's probably about $1,500 a year. You could handle that. But you certainly can't handle $2.2 million.
Mayor, let me comment. I take it by the way you're talking, Wendy, that you've hired, is it Crescendo?
We've had Crescendo under contract, yes.
Okay. If it helps,